no one else would have looked at me and been like, oh, you're not dressing for the dress code, but it's how it made me feel. I know I didn't show up. I was hiding parts of myself and I was diminishing parts of myself. I made the decision to get rid of those clothes. And I was like, okay, well, what do I feel great in?
Shelby Eloria from All Set Style. It's awesome to chat with you today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm stoked to have you. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions just to dive right in here, because you and I have had a lot of conversations about women and confidence and just some of the things that have come up for us as women. Mm-hmm. And so can you tell me a little bit about like what confidence means for you in relationship to your work or in relationship to some of the things that you do with women?
Yeah, I think one of the most foundational things when it comes to confidence is aligning who we are on the inside with what we're wearing. And confidence comes when there's alignment in that. And often we get stuck as women in wearing clothes that were from like 3 versions ago. And we've kind of like, we've leveled up and we've changed, and yet we're still wearing the same clothes of who we were. And so by creating that alignment with who you are now and who you're becoming, and then how you're presenting yourself in what you're wearing, like I have just seen phenomenal things happen in women when they create that alignment.
I love that. I remember one of the things that you first said to me was that, you know, when people actually are wearing things that they love and that they feel good in, like that part of themselves that's truly authentic gets to come to the surface. Mm-hmm. And that really resonated with me because at that particular time, my closet was full of previous versions of myself, just like you said. Yeah. And I think that when we actually get to like recreate ourselves based on who we are right now, like there's not just a wardrobe rehabilitation that's going on here. Mm-hmm. It's also a who am I question. Yeah. And that's a deeper part of the conversation.
Yeah. And that's why I created All Set Style, was because I had this mindset, well, what we wear, it's vanity. We shouldn't care about it. And yet I had experienced, and I had seen with other people, is that the power that it can have. Like we wear clothes every day, right?
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, I hope so.
I mean, some people might not.
Right.
But we wear clothes every day, and yet where are we taught how to align that with who we are? It's not the most important thing, but I'll never claim that it's the most important thing. However, it's a powerful thing. And the power that we can experience when we're wearing something that feels like who we are. And you know what the really cool thing is? Because I work with so many people and I'll go shopping with them or go into their wardrobes, is what works on one person and looks phenomenal on one person will not work for the next. And so it's about the person. It's not about the clothes. It's about fitting like who you are and fitting the clothes to you instead of you trying to change for the clothes.
I love that. And you know, there's like a deeper aspect here that's really helping us to figure out, you know, that piece of like, who am I and what's important for me, not in relationship to what's important to everybody else. Like I think a lot of times, especially as women, we are looking for the outside world to validate us. And I don't want to say that validation isn't important, because it really is. And at some point, we want to be able to look in the mirror or look in the proverbial mirror of just like, who am I? And say, I'm enough just the way that I am. And when we're wearing clothes that really reflect who we are and who we feel that we're becoming, something changes in us. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about like what that means for you in your work?
Yeah, what changes is you feel like yourself. And for some people, it's the first time that they've actually felt like themselves, or the first time in a long time. Maybe they've had a life shift. And I remember when we were shopping and you came out in these barrel pants, which are not for everyone, but you lit up. And you just like I could see it in you. And there's energy and this radiance that comes out when someone puts something on that feels like them. And I can even see it when someone looks in the mirror and they're like, they see themselves differently oh, I can wear this. This is something I can. And we often have the stories of who we think we can be or should be. based on what kids said on the playground, right? And so we have this idea of, well, I can't wear that because someone once said this. And it's so buried in our subconscious. We can feel like very confident people, and yet our clothes kind of hold us down. And by breaking some of those stories that people hold, I'm able to then see them really blossom into who they are. I had a client once text me about, I don't know, it was maybe a week after we had gone shopping. And she's like, Shelby, I have all new clothes, like different than I've ever had, but I feel more like myself now than I ever have in my life.
Wow, that's powerful.
That is so powerful. Like just think, like let that land. Is like clothes can have that. And it's not about the clothes. It's about that connection that you have with yourself. And now she's rewriting new stories of like, I can feel really good in my clothes.
So would you say that this is actually like a way for people to start to recognize and realize their own potential?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like starting to, like, I know when we were talking about this and kind of going through stuff, one of the things that you said was, you know, like who are you creating this new wardrobe for? And it made me go in and say, okay, like there are a lot of different versions of me. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of different versions of me that are becoming. And so it was really an opportunity to reflect on like which version of me am I carrying forward with what I'm going to put on my body.
Yeah.
And what it made me reflect on wasn't just like what kind of clothes do I want in my closet, but who am I becoming?
Yeah.
Who am I choosing to step into? What am I choosing to claim for myself? And that's a really different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have this story that I like to share. I call it my emerald green dress story. And I was working in the corporate world, and I had this day that I woke up. It was a Monday morning, and I was like, I am not feeling it today. I'm pretty sure I should stay in bed, covers over my head, and just not face the day. However, I'm a good employee, so I got out of bed and I got ready. And I reached into like the back of my closet and I pulled out clothes that matched my mood. And I felt frumpy and I felt sloppy, and these clothes reflected that. They worked for the dress code. No one else would have looked at me and been like, oh, you're not dressing for the dress code, but it's how it made me feel. So I get to work, and about 30 minutes after, I was hoping just to like hide the whole day. About 30 minutes, my boss from Toronto had flown in to spend a couple days there, and I'd forgotten.
Oh, okay.
And I'd only seen him in person like once or twice. And I just wanted to like crawl under my desk. And throughout the whole day, he may have never noticed, but I know I didn't show up fully. I was hiding parts of myself, and I was diminishing parts of myself. So at the end of the day, I made the decision to get rid of those clothes. And I was like, okay, well, what do I feel great in? What makes me feel powerful and confident? And I had this emerald green dress. Every time I put it on, it changes my mood and it changes my mindset. And so I made the decision, anytime I wake up feeling that way, that is what I'm going to put on. And it is wild how that works. Because now anytime I have woken up and I feel that way, I don't even have to think. I just put that green dress on, and it changes the way I go through the day, and it changes my mindset, and it changes how I see myself, because I'm putting something on that I know I feel really good in. And so that sloppy, frumpy, like mood that I was in, it was gone.
Yeah. What you're saying, like the deeper aspect of what I'm hearing here is that like you're not putting on a dress, you're putting on an attitude.
Yeah.
You're putting on an identity.
Yeah.
And you're claiming who you're going to show up as in that moment, and who you're going to be.
Yeah.
And what frequency you're going to start to emanate into the world.
And so when you think about that on your day-to-day life, like we were talking about before, that is now you get to choose what is that feeling that you want to go into the world with. That power, that confidence, that elegance, that gracefulness, whatever that is for you, and then build a wardrobe that reflects that, because that's you can think of our clothes as armor, but it's you're not hiding in it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's emulating you.
When you said the word radiance before, that really resonated with me, because I feel like a lot of the times we live our lives day in and day out, kind of from the same frequency or energy as what yesterday was like. So what, beyond the clothing, like what inspired you to even get into this, Shelby? Like why do you do this work? Because it's not just clothing work that you're doing. You're really working with the human spirit. You're really working with women, and you're really helping to like bring that deeper aspect of who we are to the surface. So what comes before the work that you do now? What's inspiring this?
Oh, that's a good question. I have always known I wanted to do something that changes people's lives. And it's a lot of people do, like that's a very common, I've noticed when I watch it, people want to help people, and like I want to work with people that changes them from the core of who they are. And that's why I never thought I would get into anything in the fashion industry, because I didn't recognize, I felt the power, but I didn't recognize the power. And so shortly after I started my business, I did this, have you heard of Strengths Finders? I can't remember if we've talked about that
No,
before.
that one's not ringing a bell.
Okay, so the Strengths Finders, it's, personality. I have an HR background. I've done so many personality tests, and most of the time they didn't resonate with me, but I did this one. And my top strength is individualization. That resonated so deeply to like the core of my being. And I was like, that is why I do this, because this is a way to see people and help them see themselves as an individual. Not about trying to fit in with everybody, not about trying to be somebody they're not, but who they are. And clothing just happens to be the tool that I use, but it's beyond that. And it's that form of being able to see someone as an individual that is what has resonated with me so much. And happens to be that I like clothes, and I use clothing as a way of doing that.
Love that. Was there like a personal shift moment for you? Like, was there something that you noticed, in your own history or past? Like, did you ever struggle with confidence or struggle with some of these aspects that kind of I think many women, like we all struggle with this to a degree, but it's not, I think it's getting more talked about now.
Yeah.
But I think that the story for so long has been like, hey, just grin and bear it. Like, don't show that vulnerable side. Don't show that lack of confidence. Like, just show up as confident and everyone will wonder how you got there. But at the end of the day, we end up feeling not ourselves or not that authentic self. Like, was there a moment for you or an experience or something that led you into recognizing this?
I don't know that I could say there was a moment, but there was an experience, like a journey, I guess you could say, because in my adult life, as I've reflected back, I would say I learned very young to be a good girl, and good girls stay small, and good girls don't outshine other people. They let other people shine. And the problem was, I had this really big dream inside of me, and I always felt like I had to dim it and I had to turn it down. And yet, like, I have memories on the playground where I bought this red pleather jacket. Not even pleather, it was like patent, like it was like gross material.
Back in the day,
I think I was in elementary school, probably grade 5. And I loved it. It was just this like biker style, but it was red and shiny and loud.
I can see it.
And I loved it. And I remember these kids making fun of me. And I really struggled because I loved it and I felt really good in it and I wanted to fit in. And I already felt like I didn't quite fit in, which a lot of people do. And it's funny that we all feel like we don't fit in together.
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I've learned that like good girls stay small, good girls stay quiet, good girls don't outshine. And yet I had this love of clothing and this fascination, not with fashion or trends, but with clothing and the way it made me feel and the way it made other people feel. And I kept a lot of that really quiet because, good girls follow the rules. So I went to university, I got the corporate job, I did like all of the things. And it was interesting that when I look back, it's like I always hovered on this line of like, don't be too loud, Shelby. Don't get too big. Don't outshine anyone. And yet it was like felt like I kept pushing on this thing, and I'm like, I wasn't being myself. I would have told you at the time I was being authentic and I was being real, but if I was being really honest with myself, there was this like line that I just couldn't push through. And it wasn't a moment, it was like a journey. Once I started this business, because I saw the power, so I'll help other people shine. I'll help other people find that authentic part of themselves. And through my own personal growth and personal development and finding out this strength that I had always kind of been dimmed, see everyone as the same or categorize and people and all of that. Once I realized that, I was like, this is part of my power. And so I started being able to lean into that and watching other people. And then I noticed that as I let myself shine a bit more, it elevated other people. Mm-hmm. Once I started to let that good girl tendencies kind of flow away, it helped. I started to see other people be elevated at the same time.
It almost sounds like that good girl like persona was like a paradigm. It was like an instilled amount of conditioning and programming from like well-meaning people, circumstances, the teachers, the parents, potentially like people around you. And at the same time, like there was a part of you that was getting smothered in that.
Yeah.
And then it got carried forward, which I think is a story that many of us can relate to, because I think that for many of us, we have unconditional and when I say unconditional, what I mean is like unconscious programming that's actually under the surface that we're not even aware that we're carrying, and yet it's dictating so much of how we're showing up in life until we kind of get to this moment of awareness where we have this realization, such as what you did, where it's like, hey, when I actually allow myself to shine, it's actually benefiting other people. It's actually elevating other people so that they can step greater into their power, because now I'm stepping more into mine.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you got a bit curious about that and started to explore that on other levels.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like I mentioned, I worked in the corporate world for a long time, and I had known, like I said, I had this big dream inside of me. So there was a dream that chose me when I was 17 years old, and it was very odd. I would be a speaker in front of thousands of people, and I was a shy kid. So I was like, what? No, this isn't true. So when I was in the corporate world, working in HR, I would facilitate workshops. I was like, this is it. This is the type of speaking I'm supposed to be doing. And so I just kind of justified it. And then I ended up, so the last 3 years that I was working in the corporate world, my friction, I had so much friction in my life. I had so much discontent. I was so frustrated. I was becoming a person that I didn't want to be. And yet I had the golden handcuffs. How do I walk away from that? I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something that would impact people. And I ended up being laid off.
Okay. This sounds like a really juicy moment that I kind of want to stick with for a second, because I feel like this is something a lot of us relate to, where it's like everything's going well. I should be happy. I should be satisfied. I should be full of joy. And yet at the same time, I'm cuffed to a life that is no longer serving me. And yet there's nothing to complain about except that I'm completely unhappy, discontented, disillusioned, not satisfied. Is this am I hitting I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah. I mean, at that point we could go into a whole other, the personal part of my life was very difficult. Again, from the outside, it would probably look fine, but internally there was a lot of difficulties in my marriage and in our relationship and in my husband's health at the time. And so having a job that I knew I could support us, I could support myself if needed, was really important. So the thought of walking away from that was scary.
Yeah.
And there was no way that I would wanted to do that. And yet there was something more.
There's something more. And like, I think that so many people can relate to what you're saying right now because, you know, especially career, I think is a big one for women because we wear so many hats. We have so many responsibilities in life. We've got our health to take care of. We've got our partner. We've got, you know, putting food on the table. And then, and by the way, while you're making this home and doing all of these things and taking care of kids and what have you, make sure that you're, you know, working a job and earning good money and all of this. And like the pressures on women, I know that this isn't entirely your story, so I don't want anyone to confuse that, but just segueing here, the pressures on women these days have never been higher or more widespread. And here we are in the situation where, you know, we don't want to upset the one thing that seems to be secure and continuous and regular. And for many of us, that is our job, even if it's deeply unsatisfying and not serving us. Okay, segue back to you.
Yeah. Just a note on that is we have all of these pressures, and who is the person that suffers the most?
Yeah. You. Absolutely.
Right? Because your cup is like spread thin over everyone else, but yet you never spend the time on yourself.
Yeah. So you made a pivot here. And was this a conscious pivot at the time, or was it unconscious? Was it like, were you a conscious competent, meaning that you just made a change not knowing where it was going to end up or why you did it at the time? Or was it like, I know what I'm doing and have to do it? So I think for many people, it's an unconscious move that they don't actually know is going to turn out good for them in these.
I'm going to say it's both.
Okay. I love that. Yeah.
Because I had known for a few years that I didn't want to stay in the corporate world. I felt it inside of me. I knew that it just wasn't aligning for me anymore. And not that I wasn't good at what I did. I knew it was something different. So being laid off, I was very consciously, I'm not going back into that. I was offered some jobs and I turned them down because I was like, I have this gift. I've been given a gift of time. I've been, you know, it was a layoff, so I got a chunk of money, and this is my opportunity to do something. Okay. I didn't know what it was right away, but I just was like, okay, the universe, God, whatever you want to say it was like, okay, Shelby, you're done with this. You're not making this decision on your own. So here you go. Now make a choice.
Wake up call moment.
Yeah. And so I consciously made the choice that, okay, and this was a big identity pivot for me because so my parents, I have the public health nurse who's very conservative in terms of like ducks in a row, knows what's going on. And then my dad, who is an entrepreneur and risk taker, I always identified with my mom. And yet here I was in a space where I'm going to be taking some risks.
Okay.
And so going from that corporate, like safe space to suddenly you're making these it was a big identity shift. And it probably took a few years for me to really shift how I saw myself. And I didn't realize at the time. I didn't even know if I could build a business. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
I just knew. And a lot of it was like going to some of my advisors, like the people in my life. And it kept pointing back to something in the style realm. Because I'd had people be like, hey, Shelby, can you go shopping with me? And then it would get noticed, the shift in them. And this was me not knowing, like only going by intuition, not by any like tools or anything.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I guess this is the business I'm gonna build and create a space for people to learn about themselves and to understand themselves in a different way. Because where else do we learn about what styles and what clothes work the best for us?
There's like a couple of layers here too, where it's like you had a pivotal moment here where you kind of had a business find you or an idea find you. Not only are you recreating yourself in this moment and stepping into new layers of identity for yourself, but you're also now in the process of helping other people. So it's like you're learning about yourself while you're helping other people learn about themselves.
Yeah.
And finding these deeper layers of understanding of who we are and what makes us feel confident and what makes us feel authentic and what makes us feel real and true. I really love that parallel. I want to segue a little bit into you as a speaker, because you said a dream kind of found you. And so for a while when you were doing the workshops and you were guiding those, you're like, okay, this is it. So like what has happened now? Like where is the shift moving you and why?
Yeah. Well, this dang dream that chose me when I was 15 just has been incessant and it wouldn't leave. I'm not a person who naturally wants to be in front of a lot of people. And so I struggled with that for a long time. And I think part of that was that good girl mentality. And like, what would I talk about? Like, what do I have to talk about? Well, life has given me a lot to talk about. So that has helped. I would say after it had been like 20 years of this dream not leaving me, I finally was like, okay, let's try leaning into this a little bit. And I joined Toastmasters. I was like, okay, this is a place that I can learn a little bit more and I can practice. And shortly after that, I had someone from a women's conference reach out and ask me to be the keynote. And I loved it. Like the energy I felt, like being up there and seeing the energy from the people and the words and the message that I was saying. And so I just kept building from there. I ended up taking some different types of speaker training and just continuing to lead into that. It's been a slow process because I have had to break down some of that good girl mentality of like, this is a big dream. And it was very clear to me when this dream chose me, it was very clear to me on many fronts. Part of it was I was in a church setting when this dream came to me, and I was speaking to like my youth group, and one of the things that was very clear is that's not what I would be speaking about.
Okay.
And so that was very scary because I was like, I don't like this was my world at the time. And the other thing was like stadium style speaking.
So large groups of people, big audiences,
thousands of people.
And so there's a part of you that has to get comfortable, not just with the idea of that, but actually like who I need to be in that in order to hold that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's been a journey, and that's been even just my own like embodying it. And you talked about how what our conversation when we were going through your style transformation and style journey is that how do you want to feel? And so I've had to do that too in terms of like even with what I wear is like, how do I want to feel? I'm kind of going through that again now where I'm like, okay, how do I want my style to shift as I'm shifting internally? And what does that feeling and that emotion that I want to experience when I put on my clothes?
Yeah. And I love how you're saying that, because I think like sometimes like on the journey we can feel like, oh, okay, now I figured myself out, I know who I am, but we're ever evolving. Like we're never from one moment to the next. Like I work a lot with visioning for people. I work a lot with creating a vision and leaning into that and kind of growing along the way. And then as we start to accomplish that vision, we very quickly realize, hey, there's another version, like there's another layer, and now I can see further down the path. And that's a different person. It's not just like me as I am right now. It's another identity. It's almost like an expanded identity of the version that I was. Yeah. But we can't see that version of us right now.
Yeah.
That version is like far into the future. And so it's only as we live into who we are that we actually uncover that next level version of ourselves.